Thank you, LeBron, for having me, and everybody in the Writing Rounds community. It's such a pleasure to see you start this, first of all, a year ago, and just kind of grow on a community basis in times of, pandemic. I believe there's so much innovation that's coming out of your Zoom writes and, the writing rounds and all that. And uh, like Jessica said, I know this is all relational. And LeBron and I met about 2 years ago, and I'm just a big fan of his, playing and producing. And then I got to be to work with LeBron on a project called Revere um, last year. That was last year, right? Sometimes, the pandemic makes it seem like it's 6 years ago. It's actually just a year ago. Hey, Sean, how you doing, sir? I'm gonna share a little bit. I'm not a natural born speaker, um, but we're gonna have Q&A, and then a lot of the things I want to share is based on my Christian beliefs and faith and how the kingdom works and what the Bible says. It's okay if you're not saved yet. I mean, Sean will pray for you, and then we're gonna go eat later. And LeBron already beat us to it. He had Domino's. But I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start with my story, if you don't mind. I'm gonna keep it short. Um, it all starts with the beginning, and my beginning was my parents, who are lovely people. They met in the late '80s in a country called Indonesia. So I was born in Jakarta, Indonesia, and in the '80s, in the late '80s, early '90s, the only Christian music that came through that region was praise and worship music. And so a lot of it was based on these things called the Hosanna Music Tape Club. Integrity Music was the label, and funny enough, I work for that label now. But how many of y'all know Ron Canoli's music, or Alvin Slaughter, or Hillsong, the old Darlene Check, you know, and all these unknown, writers and worship leaders from all over America. That was the music of my childhood, and my parents made sure. My parents are musicians. My dad's a drummer. My mom's a keyboard teacher. Still is. They began producing music based on what they heard. Some of that was Andre Crouch, Gaither band on the Christian side, and my dad, he loves Genesis and Michael Jackson and R&B music, pop, and all that. So growing up in a musical household, that was my vocabulary. That's what I listened to. So and then from being a musician, they they began preaching the gospel. I didn't even know they can preach until the church started sending them out to the nations, as we say it. So they were actually Indonesian missionaries to Australia, to America, to all over Asia, and some of Europe too. So I've lived in 10 different cities. I mostly grew up in Seattle since I was about, 7, 8 years old. Lived in the West Coast most of my life. And every time we go to a Christian music bookstore or a CD store, Walmart or anything, I just consume music. So from like what I talked about, starting from praise and worship, I branched out to gospel and kind of like learn all that you need to learn, all the greats, and then kind of my inspiration is a band, this guy named Israel and New Breed, because he ain't black, he ain't white. I don't know what he is, but he plays guitar and he has a vibe. He has chords going on. He has horns, So that's kind of like how I want to make music. So I began writing. I began worship leading at my dad's church in Seattle, and I'm kind of the backup musician. If the drummer doesn't show up, organist, guitar player, I had to learn those instruments. So how many PKs know what I'm talking about? It's you learn it all. You know, sometimes you go on PowerPoint, sometimes you're the sound guy, sometimes you carry the stuff. That's I need to tell you this because that's how I approach the music industry as well. You learn it all. You absolutely learn it all. Heck, if my sister needs help with Sunday school, I'm down there Sunday school. You know, so that's kind of like my approach. And then you know, I applied to some music schools and all that. I want to be music producer. It didn't pan out. There's a long story. And suddenly I end up in 17 years old with my family again, planting a church in Calgary, Canada. Never heard of that city before. All I knew of Canada, if you are the U.S. public school system, you are a product of the public school system. All you need to know about Canada is Vancouver and Toronto. Usually, I don't know anything else. So we end up, planting a church there. There's not a whole lot of creative community or anything like that. But I stick to it. Went to school there and got a degree in marketing and design and all that, and then used my skills in the age of social media and all that, doing a lot of marketing work for a lot of different companies, not music related, until about 2016. I had that itch. Everybody had that itch. I gotta find out if I can make it, So again, long story short, never been to Nashville. I don't know anything about the industry. I applied for a job at Integrity Music and got it. I was digital marketing director for about 2 years there. And then about 2 years ago, I switched roles to A&R. So A&R is 3 years now. A&R is artist and repertoire. I develop and manage and basically I'm the point of contact for artists, songwriters, and producers, mixing engineers to make a project happen, to make songs go, on your Spotify. so that's there's a little bit more to that story, but that's kind of my background. I'm a music guy. First and foremost, I love music, musician. I'm that creep at NAMM that follows Stevie Wonder around and waiting for the touch of the garment, but yeah, there you go. That's kind of my background. And this is very interesting conversation about what do you do with your song when it's done. My first question back to you is, how do you know it's done? I'm talking to a lot of people that are indie artists / indie songwriters, right? Not a whole lot of people here are signed to a label or anything. So I'm gonna kind of direct my topic here tonight on as you are an indie. So co-writing might be new to you, or you might have been writing for a lot of years. That's okay. Whatever it is, you need to know a little bit about music publishing. Okay? Why I say a little bit is because music publishing is very complex. There's a 100-year-old law that restricts you from doing certain things in America. Copyright laws hasn't changed, but technology and the digital world has evolved. I talked to you guys a little bit about the 5 ages of music on Clubhouse a week or two ago. First, there's the age of the LP, vinyl, record, physical product. And it moved on to CDs and tapes. And then there's the age of piracy, bootleg, Napster, all that stuff. And then the internet somehow was able to regulate it in the form of streaming. But by then, the payment structure of everything goes down. Everything's changed, more regulated. So the percentage shares on how you can make money, it depletes, But we are now in the age of the artist. So the indie artist has a lot of power. I'm going to talk a little bit more about my perspective working for a label and why their label's still around and all that kind of stuff. But basically, if you're writing a song a day or a week or a month and you have songs and you want to carry it or you want to record it, now is the best time in the age of music in history to do that. It's like you can do anything you want with simple tools, and the internet is all there. Let me give you an example. How many know that Billie Eilish and her brother Phineas made a whole bunch of money and 6 Grammys out of her parents' house at her room for about $4,000? One set of Yamaha speakers, Logic Pro, a MIDI controller, 2 sets of Newmans, really nice mics, and a whole bunch of plugins. some he didn't even download, properly. Some he just makes stuff out. There's noises from the street walks and the door slamming, and he just sequence and make music out of that. That's the producer. So that record got picked up by a major label, and now Billie Eilish is who Billie Eilish. But that's been happening in the last 5-10 years. Kids making music out of their mom's basement. It's nothing special. Everybody can make music. I can make it from my phone. I have GarageBand. And y'all have no shortage of voice notes. So it is possible to make music without a infrastructure. We do need infrastructure, but you need to know a little bit about music publishing. Okay? So once the song is done, however, you co-write or write, or however that music is done, you need to produce it out. Meaning, yes, it is possible to basically have voice notes as your MP3 or wave, but that wouldn't be enjoyable if it's not done properly. So that's why music producers are still around. That's why some of you are music producers, or you're songwriter or artist turned music producers. But you need to be registered to a PRO. How many of you know what a PRO is? Performance Rights Organization. There's 3 main ones in America: ASCAP, BMI, CSAC. And there's a lot of random ones. A lot of people ask me, okay, which one should I go to? It doesn't matter. I'm with ASCAP. Some people are with BMI. The payment structure is a little bit different, but you need to register your songs before it goes out, basically, or after. It doesn't matter. You just need a PRO. Okay? Is that cool so far? So, another common question that a lot of independent artists or songwriters ask me is that, do you need to register your songs on copyrights.gov or copyright it? Not necessarily. I know this may be a shock to you, but if you're with a PRO, that kind of takes care of everything. Because nobody will, if it doesn't go out to the public, to DSPs. DSP is, I'm going to refer to DSPs a lot. DSP is basically digital service provider. It's Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, YouTube. Those are all DSPs. If it goes out already on one or all DSPs, it's copyrighted already. So you don't actually need to patent something, unless it's like there's proof or there's similarities with another huge song or a pop song that's been around. And in that case, there's a legal component to it. But you don't actually have to go to copyright.gov and register each song. You just need to pick a PRO. Okay? So there's 2 kinds of copyrights containing every recording of a song. The recording itself, right? Which typically is owned by the record label that paid for the recording to be made. If you have no record label and you paid for that recording to be made, guess what? You're the record label. It's that easy. Okay? And the second thing is the copyright of the song itself, which typically is owned by a music publishing company that publishes and promotes the song or administrate it so that the income gain, you can gain income from it. So the second part is kind of tricky. The first, I know if you created the master recording, you own it. But the second one requires a little bit of administrative work. So how many knows what are white sheets? Cool. Producers, songwriters usually, keep a track of the splits between each co-writers and the splits between, the sound recording itself with the producer. You need to be able to keep a track of all the songs that you've ever put out or that you've ever written but never put out. And typically those are all called white sheets, right? So you can, the reason I'm saying that you need to register with a PRO is because you have the ability to own your own music publishing company. So when your catalog has grown, a record label or a music publishing company can actually administrate a lot of your catalog. That requires a little bit more complexity and a little bit of negotiation, but you need to get all that in order, all the splits. And make sure your co-writer agrees with the splits. The Nashville rule is everything equal. The track guy, the lyricist, the composer, the artist. If you're in a room and you start from ground zero, that's all 25 each. If it's 4 people. If it's 3 people, do the math. But usually, like an integrous rule of mine and my colleagues, and kind of the unspoken rule is, if someone goes to the writing room, whether Zoom or in person, with a half-done song, lyrics or composition, or at 75% there, and there's other people, guess what? It's you gotta talk before you start the song, and make sure it's 50% there or 75 before you start anything. You gotta be careful with this stuff because a lot of people are in different knowledge of their entryway into co-writing, and a lot of different countries don't actually have a system like ours. ASCAP, BMI, PROs, that kind of stuff. So make sure you talk about it in front of the right so you can split it properly. Cool. Yeah. So after that, if you're an artist, if you can carry the song, if your voice sounds good, and you can get a good demo out or anything like that, even before you decide to put it out on YouTube, on Spotify, on different DSPs, my suggestion is make a SoundCloud, private SoundCloud for all your masters, so that you can that's a networking piece. That's like, as a songwriter, you have to build your repertoire. It doesn't matter if you're a co-writer. It doesn't matter if you're not like a strong singer or anything. Just build your repertoire so that when you come into settings like this, you actually can say that you're a songwriter with quite a bit of a library. You can't actually say that you're a songwriter, but no one has heard of your songs. So make sure you have a library of songs. Even if it's not worship or R&B or rap or country music, categorize them, and so that when you meet people like me, in the industry, or when you have conversation with LeBron and Jessica, you have something to back up the words that you're saying, because songwriting is like dating to me. So co-writing and songwriting situations, it could go wrong at any point because people are on different dimensions and different way of thinking and their experience with music. Some people are not even musicians; they're just lyricists. They just read all the time, poetic books, whatever. But if you can back up your work, it's an easier business card to give out basically, and to collaborate with others. The 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 currency of music industry right now is collaboration. You see it in pop music, you see it in hip hop, cross genre and all that kind of stuff. So it's important to build a library. And some songwriters who are not destined to be, a front guy, a lead, they just put out their music, so that other people can basically cover their songs. And country music, Nashville itself is built on a lot of um, aging singer songwriters who doesn't have the hit songs anymore, and they basically collaborate with the younger, up and coming, very hungry songwriters, and then that's how they're able to sustain their careers. But in order to do that, you have to have a portfolio of songs. Cool. So my suggestion, if you're not in a worship team where your name is in it, you're writing all the time, or you're not in a studio all the time creating with, producer, whether it's R&B or beats or anything like that, just start recording. Just start experimenting with your with your songwriting so that you have a library of stuff. I'm not a best singer. I could lead a song, ad lib here and there, but I have a library of songs that I was, uh, honored enough to write with other people, and just to expand my library. It's okay if you're not the best singer. You just need something. So SoundCloud is my choice. You can choose whether you can go public with it or private. But how many of you know that Chance the Rapper's career started out because he was sharing his SoundCloud link? A lot of these indie artists that we know now, they started with something, with putting themselves out there. So Childish Gambino, same thing. Yeah, so that's kind of what I want to share. If you don't actually already know a thing or two about music publishing, there's a lot to know. So there's a lot of blogs out there. I'm gonna actually send one to the chat if you don't mind, Jessica. STEM wrote a blog about music publishing 101. The point of it is, after this round, basically, you need to know a little bit about PROs and how they work. So I'm not going to go in detail, but that blog will tell you. And whatever Jessica and LeBron have in the structure of writing rounds, however it's managed and from nothing to a song to master recording, you need all this stuff. You need PROs. You need a basic level of understanding. After that, you go have fun, collaborate, make your music. But basically, you need to know a little bit about music publishing. All right, I'm ready for questions.
Nice, nice. Thank you, Gilbert.
For
Um,
sure.
yeah, I love. Oh, what happened? Oh, we've got more people unmuted. No, I was just thinking, I think even Charles might have dropped it in there that the currency of the industry is collaboration. That's so true right now. So people that I think really most of you guys, even though some of you keep saying, "Oh, I've never done this till now. It's my first time doing co-writing and networking like this." I think you're getting a jump on a lot of people that have been in the industry for a while because it hasn't always been like that. It hasn't been as heavy as it is now, which I think is why we're starting to see some of this better music come out because it just gets better when you do use more than one point of view in the song. or have different takes on it. I'm also going to highlight what Gilbert said because he said it several times. Splits need to be done before you start writing. Don't sit there and write a whole song and then think, okay, now we can negotiate, because then you're going to get all in your feels when you feel like you wrote most of the song. And then they're saying, there's a need to feel like you had to earn a certain percentage. That's one of the reasons why we love that equal split. Nobody feels like they have to overdo something or overcompensate to be able to say, I earned that 70%. You guys, you should split this. You always want to keep that relationship open and never burn, like, unless it's just some crazy situation, but don't burn any bridges over percentages. Take the time to sit down and talk about that beforehand. It also sets a precedent for the whole entire right. Um, you're all on equal footing. Nobody's above or beneath anybody. I think that's great, especially since I've gotten to see some of the writes in writing rounds where we have some very experienced writers and some brand new writers. Everybody has an equal say. You throwing out the better idea doesn't get you more stuff. Just making sure that it's stated beforehand. So Gilbert, you did have a couple questions in here. Um,
Yeah.
I did want to check in with Sean. I know you mentioned something in here about never hearing about white sheets. So were you pretty clear on what he was talking about with the white sheets, or is that something you want him to kind of elaborate on a little bit more?
Yeah. So I mean, and I
Cool.
just want to make sure. Um, so are white sheets the same as split sheets? Like I said, I've never heard of white sheets before. Have heard of split sheets, and I use
Yeah.
them all the time. So it's the same thing, just different verbiage.
It's just different verbiage. It's when you talk with different publishers and different organizations, it could vary as white sheets or green sheets, but basically they have everybody split in their ASCAP, rate and their IPI number, all that kind of stuff on there.
Okay. Cool.
Now, I will ask on that, Gilbert, and then
Yeah.
I promise I'll get to all y'all's other questions. But um, when you're talking about a sound recording or like the recording of a song that's going out, would that be more what a white sheet pertains to? Or is that, because I know you're talking about before, like producers and musicians and whatever else on there, that's more for that recording of the song, or a song that's actually written, would that be a split sheet where it's just the writers? Like, is there a difference on like the recording or the actual writing of the song?
So it's mainly and first and foremost for the publishing side of it, for the writers, right? The splits. When I'm talking about the sound recording being able to be split with the producers and the musicians, that's the new model of where worship. The music is going. Sometimes you don't need to pay LeBron his fee, and if LeBron said, "Hey, don't worry about the fee, let's just split the song ownership." So we can do 50-50, 25. And LeBron, if you have other musicians as the producer, basically you're saying none of these musicians are getting paid, but they're gonna own a slice of that sound recording. That's possible too. That needs to go on the white sheet. But but mostly it's for the publishing entities to basically split up, divvy up all the data that's coming from all the various DSPs, so everybody could get paid on the publishing side.
Gotcha.
So it's twofold, but mainly publishing.
Gotcha. And I will say I have learned more about paperwork over the past month when it comes to putting out music. And I think me, LeBron, and Karina have been learning so much with integrity and just the process of what all it takes. We're just like, wow, okay, so let's get this whole system down. People don't realize how much goes into songwriting. It's more than just writing some lyrics and melodies and hoping it goes somewhere. Like there's the business side that has to be taken care of. So I think that's why these sessions are so important. Um, I see okay, good. That's the same question, Josiah. I was just looking for that one. Okay, so we've got a couple questions. One
Yep.
they're kind of spread out through all the stuff that you were talking about. So if there's something that you're just, not completely sure about, you could definitely let us know. I do it all the time. But so someone said, I've read books that connected releases to planning live shows as the final part of a campaign. What could that look like now in a post-COVID world with releasing music,
Yep.
all that good stuff?
That's part of your marketing strategy. That has nothing to do with music publishing or what we do with the songs after it's done. For sure, yes, we want to market it and all that. But if you're selling, if you're selling your concerts, whatever, online, that's part of the strategy, if that makes sense. But what I talked about just now, that is basically the legal, the kind of the straightforward way you need to take to kind of get your songs out there. After that, marketing, releases, social media, AdWords campaign, even live streams, that's part of the marketing strategy. So it doesn't matter if you brand yourself as a vlogger, a YouTuber, a musician, a pastor. Everybody's releasing music. It's what happens after. It's the strategy that you talked about.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this one was out. Sorry, this one was towards the beginning when you were talking about determining if your song's finished. Um,
Yeah.
so they said when you listen to a song and production, what do you listen for to determine if it is done or if it is finished?
Cool. Good music, especially pop music, is determined by other people liking it. So it's a tragedy if you're a songwriter but you never share your song to anybody. So I have Jessicas and LeBrons in my life that are musical people that has ears that understands when they turn on a video, that's a marketable thing. When they on New Music Friday on Spotify and all that kind of stuff, it's like, does your music match up and kind of can compete in a market where people are releasing music like today. Doesn't matter if you're a gospel musician or a country singer and all that. It kind of has to have the stamp of approval from other people. That's why SoundCloud recordings and you know uh, and demos and all like that, you want to get people's opinions, not the same people all over again. You might have your trusted, third grade, a first grade, third grade piano teacher that you still talk to, but if she doesn't understand anything about the market today, you need more than her. you know. So I forgot the question, Jessica, but but you need kind of like other people's opinions to make sure that song is done. And sometimes you can go back to that song a year or two after it's finished, and it means more to you emotionally. And yeah, I
Absolutely.
hope that makes sense.
I wholeheartedly agree. LeBron, anything you want to add or that you, okay, cool. Um, all right. How do I connect a song I released to digital stores to my PRO?
Digital stores meaning what I talked about, DSPs. Is it? Yeah, right. So they don't actually connect. When you go to DistroKid or STEM or CD Baby, you need all that information and they'll connect it. So you don't actually go to Apple Music and upload your WAV file, MP3. You need the third party, which is why DistroKit and all those independent uplisters, what we call it, exist. So it's okay to release music that way, as an indie. Because when you do get into talks with bigger labels or entities that can propel your music further, they can buy those recordings out, or if it's not good at all, never, take it down from all DSPs and make new recordings. But you need the distro kits. You need the YouTube is the easiest. YouTube you can actually upload, and basically that's a music and video.
Yeah,
And if you don't make a video, just have a cool art. But basically that's putting out music. That's the simplest way to go.
exactly. Sean, did you have something to add or a question?
I actually had a question. Well, I want something I want to Gilbert to kind of address since he's
Sure.
in the spot. Can you talk a little bit about how I've run into this with several different artists?
Mm.
How like DistroKid and CD Baby and all of those, when you're going through that process, they'll want to act as your publisher. and want to, get certain rights or, certain percentages and all of those types of things. And how if you're not established as your own publisher, like if you don't create your own publishing company, all of that kind of stuff. So can you kind of dive into that a little bit for somebody who may not necessarily understand?
Yeah. Um, the thing is, as an independent musician or artist, you don't actually make a lot of money from publishing. Man, hardly. Like a lot of people I know in Nashville, they don't even. That's what they do every single day. They don't make a lot of money on publishing itself. So making sure what I talked about, the basic of it is to keep you organized. You don't actually make a significant amount of money until you write hundreds and hundreds of songs, or that one song pop off on TikTok or something like that. So when an independent, my suggestion, and this is just me, not a label guy, is it's okay if you want to choose, that type of fee structure or whatever on DistroKit, as you progress and as you journey. But having what Sean just said, having your own publishing company, it's just you're just more knowledgeable of what you have out there. That's the difference. I'm not talking about the difference between $10 and $1,000. I'm talking about the difference between $5 and $10. You don't actually make a lot of money, unfortunately. But if you're a TikToker, or it's and you go viral these days, everybody's viral, then it matters. But those kind of things you can always backtrack a year or two and actually collect when you have an administrator behind you, and add people to your team of your artist team. But basically, what I talked about, getting set up with a PRO and owning your music publishing company, that's just to keep you organized. That's just for you to know a little bit of music industry. So if the question is, hey, man, I feel like DistroKid or STEM or CD Baby, they're ripping me off because of the fees, or they want to own my stuff, or they want to own a piece of it, it's not that much. Trust me, it's not that much at the end of it, But I do suggest, like Sean said, owning your own publishing entity, publishing company.
And
I hope that makes sense.
One thing to add on to that too, Gilbert, which we've talked a lot about this, even with Malcolm, who I think is a great one. We might need to pull in on a session too to come talk to us for a bit. But one, being with a publishing company, I know some of you have asked about that before, does not answer all your problems. Signed with a publishing company does not answer everything for you. And and even I would even encourage, we have contracts that you guys sign with us. I've told you guys over and over again, make sure you read through them. I know you trust us and you love us, but just because you trust and love somebody doesn't mean you don't need to read all the paperwork that you get. Read every line, make sure that you go through that. I'm saying that from personal experience. But also what you said earlier about owning your own publishing entity. I loved what you said about the bonus is knowing what's going on with your stuff. Like, I had that where I did do stuff with CD Baby with their publishing and stuff, and never had a clue what was going on, and never got anything or saw what was happening with it. The other thing, maybe even sharing with admin, I think has been one of the biggest things, is to own your own publishing entity, but have someone even administrate it if you've gotten to a point where you feel like that's necessary. So just keeping that in mind too. I think that's a question that someone shared in on Discord the other day was, how do I get to a publishing company? That is not your answer to all of your musical problems.
No.
Shaking his head no too.
Let me piggyback that.
Yeah.
My follow-up question is, when is it necessary to have your publishing to sign your publishing away, or co-pub, or actually being administrated by someone? I think one of the parameters of that is when people start making covers of your song. That means the popularity is gained. Let's say your own music video is 1,000, 2,000 hits, views in the first 6 months, and then another group covers your song, and then they went to 2 million, 3 million. That ups your value as a songwriter. and then you go off and you create and you collaborate, and then the a cumulative value of your song is bigger and bigger within a year or two. Publishing companies will come to you. Don't worry. They will find out who you are and basically ask two questions. Hey, who's administrating your stuff? And B, do you want us to publish you? If you're a known songwriter by then, because publishing money is split between the writer percentages and publishing companies. So they want a piece of that publishing. So until you get there, keep writing, keep collaborating, but don't worry too much about the administration until you have a record label structure like Writing Rounds, or you are a staff writer at some publishing house for other bigger artists. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. And Sean, did that address what you were asking about a minute ago? Okay, great.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, let's see. You were talking about a minute, well, not a minute ago. I say a minute, but you know what I mean. Uh,
Yep.
a little while ago about taking your demos and uploading them to SoundCloud with a private list and things like that. Um, someone asked if they need to be just finished mastered songs, or if it can be, just any type of thing. And I think everybody on here knows what my answer is to a lot of these things. LeBron shared his, but just your take on that too, Gilbert.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, these days it's very hard to get music to someone if it's not a finished demo. At any given day in a town like Nashville or Atlanta or Dallas or LA or New York, within 2 hours of collaborating with a songwriter, that 2 hours will probably produce a fully produced demo. And that's happening all over the world through the internet. So if you don't have a demo and you just have a, voice note or half done or not mastered and all that, it's fine. I mean, don't mix and master it. If you can still tweak the words and all that. But man, pop, country, R&B, within 2 hours you'll have a demo. So that says something about our culture. We're just fast like that. So get it as finished as possible. Lyrics will speak for itself, but actually get a decent singer who can actually hold a tune, and the notes aren't wrong and all that. That says a lot about your professionalism as a songwriter.
Yes. Y'all,
Cool.
y'all know I'm feeling an amen in my spirit, because we tell y'all all the time, make those demos quality. No more
Hmm.
voice memos of you playing guitar and just sing along, whatever. Make them quality. Now, I love what Gilbert said about, because me and LeBron have both talked about this lately, about the necessity of whether they need to be mixed and mastered. That's not required or necessary. Now, if you're putting out music, that's different. You definitely
Yes.
have those things done. But for a demo, that's not necessary. I remember went to a camp to write with Maverick City about 2 weeks ago. Sat in a room, wrote a song with someone in about, like Gilbert saying, in 2 hours. We wrote it in 2 hours, and in the next 30 minutes, she had the whole setup already over there, and we were tracking as we were writing everything. Everything
Yeah.
was, it was a quality demo done on just guitar, and I always say it wrong. What's the key little baby keyboard?
MIDI.
That thing. But using all of that stuff, I mean, it was a tiny little setup and a completely like quality demo. It doesn't take a whole lot, but that's a representation of you. And also people, Josiah, I'm about to ask your question, but also people that are writing with you. If you're writing with someone else and they make a demo of your song and start putting it out, you want to make sure if your name's on it, that you're giving some input on that. And I'm just going to say this for all the singers in the room. He said a minute ago, find some singers that can definitely, make the song great, that are on pitch, that can do all that. That might not be you. I'm just going to say, it might not be you. You may think you have the greatest voice on the planet, but it may not fit that song. So be willing to kind of give that up and find the best thing for the song. Josiah, I'm going to skip to your question real quick. He's asking, I assume you need to get permission from the other routers before uploading to SoundCloud or YouTube. I wouldn't think so, but would you need permission from them to do that?
If it goes public and other people other than that co-writer or two or three people, yes, courtesy, just out of respect. Yeah, of course. That's how you keep a relationship. Remember, co-writing is like dating, right? If you think of it like that, you want to respect the people that you date. So, so yes, absolutely get. But no, actually, a lot of people just put it out on Instagram Live or whatever. It's a track record of where they've been and all that kind of stuff. But yes, Kurt, you don't actually need to like what I'm saying legally, but courtesy, yes, please keep that good writing rounds culture going.
Um, he also had another good question. Do first recording rights matter much anymore in the world of streaming? Or, I mean, is there any concern of putting a song that you may want to pitch on a public platform like SoundCloud? Um, so I guess we'll take the first question first. Do first recording rights matter much anymore in the world of streaming?
If you if you know someone who has a big backing from a label or financial resources to market that song as an artist, and it matters to you that it goes first or second, all that kind of stuff. Yes, it does from a marketability standpoint. For instance, right? Ed Sheeran, he wrote that song. I can't. It's not in my head. He wrote something for Justin Bieber, but he ended up recording it and putting it out. But Justin Bieber liked it at that point. Does it matter in that case? Yes, these are two big pop artists. For indies and for independent artists like ourselves, it's like not really. It's putting your portfolio out there. But if you pitched it to someone and they said, yeah, I'm going to record it and then put it out, and then you change your mind and then you have all the contracts done and you sign everything, well, they actually have the first rights to put it out there. But if you don't sign anything and then it goes out and then you get mad, well, sorry, I'm in the laundry room because it's quiet. Anyways, you get the point.
Yeah, that's great. The other question is good too. Is there any concern of putting a song that you may want to pitch on a public platform like SoundCloud or social media or anything like that?
Um, Man, so many people put out stuff all the time. It doesn't really matter, you know. uh, well, I don't want to discount everything I just said, but it's just like if a big artist follows you on Instagram and that's how you get the cut, good for you. they they saw it on IGTV by you doing it on guitar, and then and then that artist works with a producer, and then you get a contract and said, hey, I want to cover your song. Good for you. Doesn't really matter. It's putting it out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but make sure you have your publishing, everything I just said, taken care of first. I don't want to see you get uh, taken advantage of, and that person said, "This is my song," you know. But there's proof. It's all in the internet.
And I will add to that and say, because we do that with the demos at Writing Rounds, when
Right.
we get a great demo, we have a whole SoundCloud playlist. And one of the
Hmm.
reasons is so that people can come hear those songs and say, oh, I want to cut that one. Oh, I want
Hmm.
to, that's a great one. How else are people going to know unless they hear the song? And we've had several people because of that and because of putting it out. When you're pitching a song, the goal is to find somebody bigger than you to cut the song. So I don't think that it's a bad thing. I agree with Gilbert, like he was saying before. I think that it's great if you put it out on social media and somebody does decide, hey, I want that song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good. I don't think there's a problem at all. Sean, were you going to say something a minute ago? I stay watching your mic.
No, so no, Gilbert came back and fixed it because I was going to say just make sure you got your copyright.
There
Make
you
sure
go. Yeah.
all it takes
Basically, guys,
and
everything I said, you got to make sure the publishing is tight first, because you can take my words and be like, Oh, you said just put it out. No, 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 no. Everything I said in the beginning goes in place. Yeah.
Okay. Right now, I only see one last question left. So, guys, last call for questions. Make sure you drop them in the chat if you have one. Um, so, Gilbert, say that a church would like to use your worship song in services on a stream. Would this be licensed?
Say the last part, and I'm not reading this
It
yet.
says, say that a church would like to use your worship song in services on their live stream. Should that be licensed?
Like I said, make sure you're good at publishing stuff first. It doesn't really matter for you as a writer until hundreds of churches does it. In that case, there's things called CCLI. Do you know what that is? CCLI governs most of the, I would say, uh, predominantly, multicultural or white churches in the UK, in North America, in Australia. So CCLI songs are songs like Great Are You Lord, Revelation songs, Reckless Love, Good Good Father, Waymaker, The Blessing. Those are big CCLI top 10 songs I just named. So when you get to that point where not just one church, two churches, but 100 churches are covering your song and they're discovering your music on YouTube, that gives you power to go to CCLI and said, I'm not getting any revenue. This is actually a good song, and a lot of churches are doing it. Can you enlist my song on your website so I can get paid through your streaming services and products, basically?
And that hasn't always been the case too, because at least a while back, I remember when I first started, I could start a CCLI account and put up songs.
It's too many songs.
Yeah, and there are so many songs on there now that they, they even put on their website, we're having to revamp this, and
Yeah.
this. And I remember trying, even for our church now, to get an account for CCLI. And one of the things they said was, what kind of traction are you getting with your music?
Right.
First thing, if there's no traction, then they can't do it. So now it's backwards. You don't handle that beforehand. You wait till, like Gilbert saying, there is some traction, then you have that power to do that. Sean, I see that hand.
So along with that, so I've been doing some research on that just because kind
Yeah.
of where we are as far as the pandemic is concerned. So CCLI, to my knowledge, is only covering the reproduction of the lyrical content. They're not necessarily covering the streaming or the performance. So
No.
if you're not putting up your lyrics, you're not entitled to get paid for that. But there are other licenses that cover the actual stream performance, and I can't remember. I think it's called Worship Cast. There are a couple of companies that I was kind of looking into, but they
Yeah.
actually submit licenses for the performance, and they're connected to PROs instead of just kind of being connected to Brookwood and all of those certain things. That their license was a bit more broad than CCLI was. So if that's kind of where you fit in at, you may want to kind of do some research on who does the right license for what you want to do.
That's good. That's good. Charles asked about explaining what ISRC codes are.
Yeah. ISRC codes, basically, on that white sheet. It's not nothing you have to do to gain ISRC codes or anything. But when you go to DistroKid, when you go to distribution house, whatever that is, you will get assigned an ISRC code or a UPC code. So ISRC UPC, that is the code that basically says to all these different DSPs, digital service providers, basically, this is the same song, this is the same recording, and therefore, if the lyrical and the sound matches this person gets paid. That track gets paid. That's what ISRC codes are. Same thing with video ISRCs. When you go on YouTube, and basically there's content ID that matches the sound recording of someone else's videos. That's how you get paid. But ISRCs is kind of that code that basically it's like a barcode basically on a at a grocery store. I should have said that first.
Guys, that's the last question I see in here. Is there anything else you want to pop out and ask Gilbert before we end up closing this session? Looking good, looking good.
You can also ask me something that doesn't have to do with this subject. Yeah, I'm still free for another 15 minutes if you want to ask anything.
I do have a question. So I just realized as you were talking that I have never registered my works with my PRO with ASCAP.
Yep.
So I went in and I registered the work, but I have stuff that have been out since like 2014. It's not possible to backtrack if somebody has used my stuff, right? Or is it?
Um, I mean they see volume. What I mean is they like someone wants to admin it or anything like that. But basically, is your songs covered or do you have new recordings of it? What's kind of your track record of your songs out there?
I mean, I'm pretty newish, so I've had some radio coverage
Okay.
stuff, and but I don't think if I've had covers, it's like only a handful. But I have had playlists and definitely radio with some of the songs. So, but it's been years. Like my earliest release was 2014.
Hmm. Usually, it's collecting money somewhere. Are you with any PRO?
Um, ASCAP. That's a PRO, right? Or no?
Yep. ASCAP is.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, you might want to just do a customer service email to ASCAP saying just asking if there's money sitting somewhere. Yeah, that helps.
Thank you. I'm really grateful for this. I literally just registered like 4, 5 different projects, so I'm
Yeah.
really grateful.
Yeah, for sure. And these things they take a while. Administrating a song based on 200 different DSPs and all these revenue sources, it just takes a while. That's what payouts for different companies. It might take 4 months. Some like major record labels and publishing houses. It takes 4 years to administrate your stuff. If you're not a huge priority, meaning you don't make millions and millions of dollars off of the recording or the publishing side, like in annually, yeah, you just have to be repetitive with these kind of organizations. Chances are it's like less than $10, and I hate saying that, but it's the fact.
I got my check for $3 the other day.
There you go.
And I did drop it in the chat. And I said, y'all better celebrate because this is the biggest check I've gotten. It's a lot of work, y'all. And sometimes the reward doesn't look like what it should. But that's why you have to know, you have to really be in it for reasons other than the money. It has to
Yeah.
be the creative part of everything. Uh,
Right.
and actually feel like this is what you're supposed to be doing. Or even if it's a hobby, just not worrying about all that, but don't be in it for the big bucks because unless you just got a banger, you're not going to see too much. I
I,
will say,
I didn't expect. Oh,
who was that?
Nida, this is Nida. I was saying I didn't expect any money to be in my TuneCore and just realized I had $45 sitting there. I was like,
There
wait,
you
what?
go. And that's probably from the sound recording. That's probably from the playlisting, a little bit from your fans and all that. That's probably not publishing. So check all your different entities. Make sure you have it all listed in a document somewhere. When your computer crash, make sure it's on Google Docs or it's tied to your Gmail, that kind of stuff. These are real things, y'all. Like I work with like professionals who make money from music, and sometimes they don't. After 20 years, they don't even know what you guys are learning right now is real.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I will say there are several independent artists on here.
Hmm.
We have a lot of songwriters, but there's independent artists. Guys, who just mentioned what his role is at Integrity. Is there anything you guys want to ask him about stuff on the artistry side of music? I've got him here.
Let me just give you an encouragement. don't set out to be a songwriter, meaning as your full-time job. I hope you learn that from all this discussion, because of it's just not sustainable. You need to feed your family, you know. Um, but that's how you get your creative juices out. That's how you express, you know. Some people paint, some people write songs, some people write books, and that should be your primary motivation of writing. Get your creative brain flowing, you know. Don't yeah, I would discourage you from you know, wanting to get a staff writing job at a at a record label or publishing house, that kind of stuff. Um, is important to be able to write, but is really really hard. Is really really hard life. Let me give you another example, because when you are good enough to write for country, for you know, all your favorite artists, big stuff and all that, these labels and publishing houses, they're gonna offer you some things like advances, right? But everything comes. There's a pro and con to everything, including advances. And I'm not saying, hey, you shouldn't want advances and all that. But if you start living off of advances, you're gonna owe money for it to recoup, and your life will be like miserable if you now have to write to make money, because the advances you know, they're nice and all that, a couple thousand, 5,000, whatever, but you have to earn that money back. So your work now is your work now. You have to be as good and better than your previous work and other people's work. So you have to top yourself every time. So that's why I discourage you from seeking out songwriting deals and songwriting as a profession, but keep writing as a songwriter. Be the best songwriter you could be. Don't seek out these kind of stuff, because with the internet, someone or something or an entity will discover you and help you build your ecosystem. I think the greatest, not motivation, but the greatest honor for a songwriter is for your songs to relate to someone in their most fragile, most sensitive, most joyful moments in their life. If you're able to do that, you got something in your hands.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly on that one. And I've told this story a million times, but I think I even shared it on Clubhouse one night when you were on there. But one of my favorite songs that I've written, "You Notice Me," was one of those songs that I wrote in a place, y'all, a place. Um, and you know, I hadn't seen a whole lot of money from that song. But what I have seen from it is people that have messaged me talking about what that song did for them in the spot they were in, or just how it ministered to them, or even if it's not a Christian song, just somebody that could relate to what it is that you're doing. So that's our job. We create relationships through music. So just keep that in mind. Gilbert, somebody did ask. By the way, shout out to Akey for handling business a second ago with the little one. I don't know what he was doing, but he was trying to get all up in that camera. That was funny. But when is it time to reach out to an A&R rep as an artist for development?
To get signed, or to for development purposes, or that kind of stuff.
They put for development, so I think it's just for that, maybe.
Yeah, it's never too early or too late. Because the thing is, you just want to build relationships. Not even in the music industry, but if you're not ready now to be developed or to be whatever, you probably will, and somewhere along that journey. So you just want to know people in the industry. I mean, I started out in digital marketing, y'all. I was in charge of 35 social media accounts, like 35 different artists times 4 social media accounts. And I got to know how to market stuff. I got to know Facebook Facebook ads, that kind of stuff. That's my entry point to to the industry, and then I start learning about publishing. I start learning about A&R. But the people that I knew maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, from my digital marketing role, they might be songwriters, they might be artists now, and I'm like, oh, I'm A&R. I can give them a shot. Hey, let's get LeBron and Jessica in a room somewhere to write that kind of stuff, you know. So just make friends. Don't be annoying, but make friends with people like me. And I'm not saying I have a lot of power. I work for a label that used to be amazing, like distributing music all over the world, but now it's like in the rebuilding stages of that. So I'm rebuilding a lot of stuff. I'm in charge of gospel and Latin, mostly, and a little bit publishing. But if it's really good, I'll pass it on to someone else or some other companies. You know, we all talk in this industry. Make sure your name is good, and make sure your work speaks for itself. So I don't have to listen to you explaining about your song for an hour, where I could just listen to your song for 3 minutes and I know it's good. I don't want to hear too much about it until it moves my heart. And guess what? I listen to 30 demos a day. How many of them moves my heart? Probably one. You know? And I don't want to get bitter, and I don't want to get, stalemate and anything. I just love music. I know what good music is. So, yeah. Just be friends.
You're talking so good. We've talked about this over and over again. You are not in the room while they listen to the song. So you can't just write this song that needs an explanation. You need to write a song that explains itself. Put it in a way so somebody can understand, and you got to catch their attention. He just said he sits and listens to 30 demos, and that's not even just like leisure listening. Like, he's listening with an intent. Like, he's not just putting stuff on. He's listening. So you want to catch somebody's attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's painful listening sometimes, even though they're demos and all that. But I'm looking for the lyrical integrity of something. I can if I can feel your words, even the demo. If I can get over how bad the demo is because of your words, you got me. It doesn't matter if it's reggae or hip hop or anything like that. You can feel it. So I'm looking for lyrical integrity. I work in worship music, so every day I listen to songs about mountains, valleys, oceans, rivers, problems, and then somewhere in the chorus, in the bridge, God delivers me, and God made a way, and God is my salvation. And then the verses are problems, and mountains, and rivers, and suns, and moons, and clouds, and rains. And I'm like, there's something wrong with our writing society when it's just the formulaic of that. So I'm looking for something else. So if I look at the lyric sheet and it says it has mountains and rivers, I fast forward. That's just me. Not every A&R is like that. Mark, Deron, you guys are laughing, but it's true. And because for me, you know what? The greatest songs about mountains and valleys and rivers has already been written. Give me an E flat, LeBron. Ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low. And you just replace the word Jesus, baby, with Jesus, or from God to you, Sean or Savannah, and that's a worship song to me. Ain't no mountain high enough.
Not the mountains and the valleys, Gilbert. Not the mountains and the valleys. Well, that's funny because most of the rest that I've been in, there's been something brought up with one of those words that you've been talking about, and we're sitting there like, no, that's too cliche. We got to come up with something new.
Right.
But it's always hard as a songwriter. You don't want to come up with something too complicated. You want something singable by everybody, but still something different. So it's hard. But I completely understand. I think it's funny that problems, deliverance. Problems. And then that bridge, glory to God, we're going up on that bridge.
Right.
right down to the chorus.
and then you do the octave, and then you sing it higher, and then you more exalted. You're more. There's more of God's presence or anything. There's smoke coming up. And then you get your CCLI money. It just oh, sorry guys. Hey, this don't record this.
I love it. I love it. That is hilarious. But it's so true. And it's guys, that's a great point of view to have as someone that sits and listens to demos. Hear what he's saying and think about that when you're writing your stuff. Even in your groups, just mention, hey, what is another word for mountains? How could we
Right.
say that differently? So think about what he's saying right now. Um, don't just hear it and laugh now. Think about it in all your rights in the future. But yeah, extra bar on the last chord of the bridge. Y'all are too funny. I can't tag.
I'm I'm looking at the chats.
Yeah, they're too
Sorry,
funny.
y'all. If you're like writing songs like this, I'm so sorry, but
No,
that's just the truth.
we love all of it. Because listen, I put myself in check. I just heard no mountain that won't stand a chance. No, that's the first thing I heard. I was like, oh, wait a minute now.
That song is different.
That song still feels good though. We at least saved it for the bridge. We at least saved it for the bridge. But I love it. I love it. That's all good stuff, Gilbert. Guys, this is a great session. I'm glad you guys made it in, and I love getting to do these actually in person where we can ask questions and be in the conversations. Being able to watch them on replay later is great, but you get that little FOMO start to creep up a little bit, like, man, I wish I'd have been there so I could just talk through it with somebody. So yeah, keep coming to the roundtable stuff. People like Gilbert that are willing to come in and share their knowledge. I think that's great. One thing that he said a minute ago is about making sure your name stays right. I love what Sean does every time in Clubhouse before he shares anything is always, let me check real quick who's in here. I need to make sure, because before you say stuff, once you put it out, it's out. You can't take it back. So keep your name clear, keep your name, full of integrity, full of character.
And the circle is too small.
Too small.
The circle's too small. So I mean, I knew Gilbert before coming to writing rounds. I already knew Gilbert. We already had a relationship. We met in Nashville. So the circle is already too small, and you get to talking. And like Gilbert said, it's easy for him to just say, okay, this may not work here, but I can call somebody over here. That circle is way too small, and all it takes is you to have a bad name. Bad name is like bad credit.
But
Everybody knows you got bad credit.
and it can also work in your favor too.
Right. And before I met Sean, I already know never go a day. I already know you save me. I already know you are, It's like, and Sean's name is like, Sean's voice is important to me, is important for gospel music. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you, because I didn't know you knew all them songs. You started naming my discography out. I've kind of got the feels over here a little bit. I'm going to have to go home and take my camera off.
I hear him choking up a little bit over there. No, that's great. That's great.
For Clift a little bit. I'm going to look for Clift.
But like Gilbert was saying, relationships being so important. So yeah, the circle's small. That can work in your favor, or that can be very dangerous for you. But also keep it in mind, you're not working just for that circle. So don't network with just people that have a name or you've heard of before. Don't just look, don't be that person. Oh, that's not a name, because it turns around on you too. Think about how many times you've been overlooked because you don't have that name or you're not in that position. So like he's talking about before, you can randomly meet somebody and have no idea who they're connected to. So be careful what you say, be careful, the kind of stuff that you share and you talk about. I know that's completely off topic from what our original topic was, but it all goes together. It's your career. It's what you're trying to do. So make sure that you're very careful with that. So overlooked.
Yeah.
God, come on, Charles.
Yeah, I think the industry, the music industry, I'm just reflecting my time here in the last 4 years, 5 years of my career, my very short career. I think the music industry and actually making music is very different. It is very different. Music industry, just like film, just like a lot of this entertainment. We're in showbiz. Even though it is presence music or worship music or you might say it's got oil or whatever, it's still the music industry. Music industry leverages. The kingdom of God does not leverage. God came as a man. That's anti-leveraging. That's like the most humble thing you can ever do. That's Jesus. But music industry is kind of opposite of that. Everybody has a ladder. Everybody has an angle type of thing, and you don't start off that way. You don't. No one does. But if you don't be careful, if you strive, that kind of stuff, you can change in a dime. If you're not solid, if you don't have integrity, if you overlook, or that kind of stuff. So yeah, leveraging is a real thing in this industry, and you gotta have a ground to stand on. Basically, that's what I'm saying.
I love that. I love that. Gilbert, you're the greatest. I say it all the time. I brag on you all the time. You seriously are the greatest. Um,
Thank you, Jessica.
and if there are any other questions, you guys could shoot them to me, and I'll try to run them by Gilbert and see if we can get some more answers. But this was so good, so good. Touched on exactly what we needed and then some. So guys, take all this, let it sink in. We got people popping in now.
Yeah,
Y'all too late.
thank you
We're
all.
done.
Thank you all. But really, like LeBron, Jessica, you guys, these guys are innovators. So you're in a safe community where you can fail together. It's like, because what you guys are doing is a post-pandemic approach during the pandemic of actually creating together and not being in a room. Imagine how much money you save by not traveling to London or South Africa or even Nashville just to get a chance to write. You're actually learning, and this is actually producing and feeding to the ecosystem that will propel music, better music, I hope, by collaboration. So Jessica, LeBron, thank you. This is a great opportunity. I hope you guys know that it's not easy to build an ecosystem. It's not easy to build a community. So, when you have Discord, when you have that kind of stuff, $7 is nothing, guys. Come on. It's so tell your creative friends, I'm for this model because it actually helps you. And a lot of people are going through anxiety and depression and all that, but you actually have a community here. Zoom might drive you nuts. It drives me nuts, but but actually you have a community of people that you can lean on. So thank you, LeBron and Jessica.
And thank you for all the encouragement. Seriously, you have no idea what that means. Even checking up on us. I love that he checks in. Even checked in, I think yesterday, just seeing how we were doing. I think that's so good. That's so good. But yeah, listen, I'm so glad you guys are part of the community. And like Gilbert said, $7, and it may be a lot to some people, but think about the things that you get out of being in this community. I never realized how much I needed community like this until it started snowballing into what it is now. So um, people may not be aware of what they're missing out. So go ahead and let them know they need to jump on in. I know it's a little bit more for our international people. It's different prices, but $7 US. Anyway, guys, and thank you to the ambassadors, all of you guys that have been on the team that have been helping all this run so smoothly. We literally, even with the team we have of 10, 11 people, it's still a lot for just us. So you guys have made this such a smooth and easy transition. 80 or 67 people. Is that what I said? Or was it 87? It was 87. 87 people. That's a good number. We've only been on fully for a whole month. That's crazy. So yeah, it's just going to keep growing. Keep it going. Keep encouraging people, and y'all keep coming back in here. I love you. You know that I do. Let me know if you have any questions. Gilbert, you're awesome. And thank you so much for tonight. Guys, you can check this out. The recording